Shalom, shalom, mishpokah. Welcome to another edition of Ray Bash's Ramblings. I'm your host, Rabbi Yehuda ben Shomer. I would like to share with you something that I wrote last night and kind of polished this morning. So please bear with me as I read. It's called Fear and Ignorance. In Matthew 22, verses 34 through 40, it says, "But when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence where they were gathered together, then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him, and said, Master, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Yeshua said unto them, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And these two commandments hang all of the law and the prophets." Just as the commandments hang as if on a balanced scale on the two greatest commandments to love God and to love your neighbor, fear and ignorance are the two greatest forces of evil upon all that which is evil hangs. Fear is instinctual, primal, a knee-jerk reaction of one's fallen human nature that initiates the self-preservative reaction of fight or flight. It is action, or more accurately, reaction without proper reflection. It is striking out in the darkness at an unknown and unseen assailant. It is not crosshairs or laser accurate. It is widespread and all-consuming, like a buckshot. Fear has been made into a very helpful acronym. Fear, false evidence appearing as reality. Therefore, the lens of fear which people peer through is jaded, biased, circumstantial, and self-serving to the detrimental harm of oneself and others, usually the innocent. Fear, along with ignorance, is the subjugating force in most corrupt, organized religions. Fear, along with ignorance, is the okay, I already said that, sorry. Fear is raised as a stinging whip above one's head, ready to crack down, to keep one from thinking, to keep one from deviating from the man-made religiously set dogmas. Fear is, if you don't do such and such, dreaded consequences will irreparably fall upon you, eternal and without remedy. Fear does not allow one to question beliefs or doctrines. Fear says, leave your thinking to me. I'm older, I'm wiser, I know better, I've been here before, I have your best interest in mind. Shut up and obey without question. Fear stagnates the soul, arresting necessary and healthy changes in personal evolution. Fear is blind and allows you to trust no one but it. And he spake a parable unto them, Can the blind lead the blind? Shall they both not fall into the ditch? Luke 6:39. This gives a new meaning to what Franklin D. Roosevelt said, We have nothing to fear but fear itself. Therefore, fear keeps one subordinate through handicap. Fear breeds ignorance, and once ignorance is born, it takes on a life all its own. Where fear blinds, ignorance keeps stupid and dull. Ignorance only approves of doctrines and dogmas that fear has already dictated. Put fear and ignorance together, you get a toxic and explosive combination that opens the floodgates to all facets, shapes, and forms of evil. Fear and ignorance creates an us-them mentality, an us-them dynamic. Fear and ignorance assumes stereotypes, highlights differences, and exploits the potential negatives within them. And so fear and ignorance unlocks the cages of the breeding mongrels of lust, anger, hate, and every evil motive birthed by them. Fear and ignorance says all terrorists are Muslims. Fear and ignorance says all natives are drunks, druggies, liars, and cheats. Fear and ignorance says all Catholics are anti-Semitic. Fear and ignorance says all Asians are communists. Fear and ignorance says all Hispanics are lazy and breeders. Fear and ignorance says all blacks are criminals. Fear and ignorance says all Americans are rich. Fear and ignorance says all whites are prejudiced and supremacists. Fear and ignorance says all gays and lesbians want to rape those of the same sex and molest little children. Fear and ignorance says all Jews are money hungry and rule the media. Fear and ignorance says all that is different is bad and must be eradicated. Fear and ignorance says all who disagrees with your religion or your worldview is wrong and against you. Fear and ignorance says all conspiracy theories are true. Fear and ignorance says all who are not upper or middle class Westerners are savage, inbred, and subhuman. Fear and ignorance says shoot first and ask questions later. I could go on, but you get the picture. Behind every evil, behind every crime, behind every social injustice, behind every societal ill, you will find the mother and daughter called fear and ignorance. Behind every war, behind every jihad, behind every terrorist attack, behind every rape, murder, and theft is fear and ignorance. Behind every paranoia, mass hysteria, and mob mentality is fear and ignorance. The Salem witch trials, the massacre of the Native Americans, the pogroms, the blood libels, Holocaust, and slave trade all have their day in the sun because of fear and ignorance. Fear and ignorance are like two cockroaches that attempt to scurry away along the walls and behind the stove or fridge or through a crack in the wall when one turns on the kitchen light. We need to stomp them dead and flat with the heels of love, brotherhood, education, tolerance, understanding, wisdom, and by all that which is right, good, and true. We cannot let them escape and breed and infest within the walls of the human soul. Shalom and Shavua Tov Mishpocha.